All right, let's get right into it. The big question on everyone's mind, is AI coming for our jobs? I mean, you see the headlines everywhere, but today, we're going to skip all the speculation. Instead, we're diving into some fascinating new research that uses actual data to show us what's really going on in the job market right now.
This is it, right? This is the question that's driving this entire conversation. It feels like every single day there's a new prediction AI is either going to create a perfect utopia or it's going to take every single job. So what's the real story?
Well, as it turns out, getting a real answer is way harder than it looks. You know, predicting how technology will impact jobs is something we've historically been, well, pretty bad at. And the researchers behind this study are the first to say that our past attempts have often totally missed the mark.
I mean, think about it. A lot of the predictions about which jobs in the US would be offshored, they were just plain wrong. Many of those sectors actually grew. And get this, even looking back decades, economists are still arguing about the true impact of industrial robots. So it's pretty clear that just guessing about AI isn't going to cut it. We need a much better way to measure things.
And that's exactly what this study brings to the table. See, to get a clear picture of what AI is actually doing, the researchers had to invent a whole new way of measuring its impact, a tool that lets us see beyond all the hype.
The core idea here is brilliant in its simplicity. They separate two very different things. On one hand, you have theoretical capability. That's everything an AI could do on paper. You can think of it like the user manual for a super powerful new drill. But then on the other hand, you have observed exposure. And that's about what people are actually using that drill for on the job site, day in and day out. And let me tell you, the gap between the two is enormous.
So this new metric, observed exposure, is the absolute key. It's not about what's theoretically possible. It measures how AI is being used in the wild, in real professional settings. And it's smart about it too. It gives more weight to tasks where AI is completely taking over versus ones where it's just, helping out a little. This is all about tracking actual behavior.
And this chart right here really tells the story. Just look at this gap. The blue bars, that's the theory. For computer and math jobs, AI could theoretically touch a whopping 94% of tasks. But now, look at the red bar. That's the observed usage, the reality. It's only 33%. And you see this massive difference across the board. The hype is way out ahead of what's actually happening in the workplace.
So now we have this new lens to look through. What does it actually show us? Let's follow the clues in the data and see which jobs are truly the most exposed to AI right at this moment.
Okay, the results are fascinating. Computer programmers are right at the top, with 75% of their tasks showing real-world AI use, which, makes a ton of sense. We know AI is a huge deal for writing code. Right behind them are customer service reps and data entry keyers. Again, roles where AI is great at things like summarizing info or inputting data.
But then you have the complete other side of the economy. A full 30%, almost a third of the entire workforce, has zero observed AI exposure. Nothing. Their day-to-day work just doesn't overlap with how AI is being used today. We're talking about cooks, mechanics, lifeguards, bartenders, jobs that are all about physical, hands-on, in-person work.
And this is where we get to one of the most surprising findings in the whole study. You might think it's the lower-paid workers who are most exposed, right? Wrong. The data shows it's actually the higher-paid, more educated workers. They earn on average 47% more and are 4.5 times more likely to have a graduate degree than workers with no AI exposure at all. That's pretty counterintuitive.
Okay, so we've got a really clear picture now of who is most exposed to AI, which of course brings us to the million-dollar question. Are these people actually losing their jobs?
Let's be direct. Are these higher-paid, highly educated people being pushed out of the workforce because of AI?
And the answer, when you look at all the data since late 2022, is a clear and resounding no. The study found absolutely no evidence that workers in these highly exposed professions are seeing any kind of systematic rise in unemployment compared to everyone else.
In fact, when the researchers crunched the numbers and compared the two groups, the change in the unemployment gap between them was basically zero. It was statistically insignificant. So even with all this AI exposure, there has been no detectable negative hit to their employment rates. None.
But hold on, the story doesn't quite end there. While there's no evidence of layoffs, the researchers did spot something else, a different, much more subtle signal when they zoomed in on hiring patterns, especially for young workers just starting their careers.
So they focused specifically on people between 22 and 25 years old.
This group is a fantastic indicator of what's happening at the entry level, since so many of them are looking for their very first real job out of school.
And here is what they found. A 14% drop in the hiring rate for young people trying to get into these AI-exposed fields. Now let's be super clear. This is not people getting fired. It's a potential slowdown in new hiring. But, and this is a really big but, the finding is just barely statistically significant. It's right on the edge of being a real signal versus just random statistical noise.
The researchers themselves are extremely careful here. They call this a tentative signal, not a conclusion. Because there could be other things going on, right? Maybe young workers are just staying in their current jobs a bit longer, or deciding to go back to school. And frankly, survey data on job hopping can be pretty noisy. So this is something to watch for sure, but it is not a reason to panic.
So after digging through all of that, what's the bottom line? Let's try to separate the real signal from all the noise and just recap what we actually know for now.
Okay, first, we have this powerful new tool, Observed Exposure, that lets us track AI's impact based on reality, not just hype. Second, that reality shows us that AI adoption is still just a tiny fraction of its full potential. Third, and this is the big one, so far, there is zero data to support the fear that AI is causing unemployment, even for the most exposed jobs. And finally, the very first, very faint signal of any impact might be a slight slowdown in hiring for young people in these fields, and that's something we need to watch.
So this research doesn't give us a crystal ball to see the future. What it gives us is actually way more valuable. It gives us the right tools and a clear starting line to track the changes as they happen, in real time. For the first time, we can actually measure what's really going on. And the big question it leaves us with is this. Now that we finally know how to watch, how quickly is this picture going to change?